evening, everyone. Welcome to the Embassy of India. Thank you so much. We have gathered here today to celebrate the 4th anniversary of Gurudev Rabindra. To begin with, I would like to invite our chief guest, Dr. Ajay Kumar, Minister of Commerce at the Embassy of India, to pay a floral tribute, and also Minister of Community Affairs, Dr. Jayanti. I would now like to invite Mr. Devassis Barak, member of the Board of Director of NVBA, Northern Virginia Bengali Association, to pay the floral tribute and address the gathering.
Good evening, esteemed officers of the Indian Embassy and our community friends. I'd like to start by thanking the Embassy for inviting us to celebrate Rabindranath Tagore's 4th anniversary. It's very special to us because Tagore lives in our hearts and minds. We have had a long association with the Indian Embassy and the Northern Virginia Bengali Association. Sometimes you come and celebrate with us, sometimes we come and celebrate with you, and we would like to keep this association and friendship going, so thank you for that. Now, a few words on why we are gathered here. India has been blessed with many famous personalities. Rabindranath Tagore is one of the brightest luminaries. He does not just belong to Bengal. He does not just belong to India. He's a truly universal poet. In one of his poems, Aji hote shatabarsho pore, he's curiously wondering if 100 years later, someone is going to read his poetry. And the answer is yes, we all are. And the fact that we are gathered here today celebrating his birthday is testament to the fact that Tagore truly transcends the boundaries of space and time. Now, we all know that Tagore is heavily inspired by nature, right? Rural Bengal, River Padda, the hills, valleys, and forests of India. But many other poets have done that. The profound talent of this poet, it is said that even if there is a flutter in the wind, he can write a poetry on that. Even if there's a ripple in the water, he can write some golden verses on that. Even if a leaf falls from a tree, that's enough, triggers enough imagination in him to compose the most beautiful song. That's where he's different. And, there's a lot that can be said, but the time is short. And even Tagore, in his own words, in Shonar Tori, he said is that time can take his work, carry his work along, but it cannot carry him along. So it's upon us to take that legacy, his legacy, and carry it forward from people to people, from generations to generations. And today, I admire the efforts of the embassy in, calling this gathering so that we can do our small part in this bigger effort. Thank you. That's all.
It is my pleasure to now invite Mr. Sumanta Chakrabarti, President of NVBA, to share his thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone, especially the Indian Embassy, all the officers and esteemed people. Thank you for inviting us, the whole NVBA community, to Embassy. As Devashish mentioned, we have a long relation with the Embassy. We did a lot of cultural programs together every year almost for all this Bengali and other cultural shows. Now coming to why we gathered here, of course, it's Gurudev Rabindra Tagore's birth anniversary. This is it's a memorable event for us, for all the Bengalis, not only the Bengalis, all the Indians, even outside the India, like throughout the world. Everyone knows who Gurudev is and what is the influence of his poetry, his songs, and his literary atmosphere. So now I just would like to mention one thing that I have read that in his childhood there are three main events that influenced him in many ways. One of them is the religious reform going on by the Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, and then the poetical reform going on, and the third one is the Indian national revolution going on. So I mean that influenced him a lot from the very childhood. And his work not only like writing poetry or the music, his poetry and music also put a lot of effort during our pre-independence day also. He wrote a lot of he inspired a lot of like the freedom fighters. So he has done a lot of effort is to the Indian like national fight. And also in his childhood, like he has been mostly influenced by the nature. I mean, he has done most of his studies from home. Even though he has studies from home, he could go to school initial days, but he has the most prolific, experience from the nature. And that influence of the nature, that influence from the cloud and the nature influence, I mean, shows that influence in their poetry, their singing, everything. I mean, I just like to say, like, this is one of the best event, memorable event that every Bengali, every Indian likes to celebrate. And we really thankful and glad that Indian Embassy personnel invited us in such a special day. And one thing that I like to announce that we, Northern Marginal Bengali Association, also do a Kobi Jayanti festival. And this year we are performing in June 22nd on Mercer Middle School in Aldi, Lawrence County. So we are delighted to invite all the esteemed guests and the member of the embassy to join us on that day and celebrate the event together. We are going to send an official email with the invitation to everyone to the embassy. And thank you so much. Thank you everyone. I hope you will enjoy the rest of the program.
It is my honor to invite our chief guest for the evening, Dr. Ajay Kumar, to deliver his remarks.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank each one of you for coming to Embassy this evening to celebrate with us Gurudev Rabindra Tagore's birth anniversary. I would like to also congratulate you all for enthusiastically participating in this evening, basically, and would like to communicate Ambassador Srimya Ramanathan's greetings on this evening, as she is not able to participate and join with you all for these celebrations, but she conveys her greetings to each one of you. Because of her preoccupation with other official engagements, she couldn't actually participate. So thank you very much on her behalf also for attending this celebration this evening. As we all know that we are celebrating today life and works of Gurudev Rabindra Tagore ji. Our previous speakers have already spoken about this personality, whose actually identity goes beyond India. He is an international figure. He is known for not only for literature, but for his dedication towards the humanhood, basically. So that said, Some of you have talked about he was a nation builder. He has actually shaken the awakening of Indians when we were actually passing through the freedom struggle. So we all know that how he and his work has actually touched the lives of common people basically across the subcontinent, and it has actually created the consciousness about the India as a nation. As somebody like one of you were talking about that while India was actually going through freedom struggle, we were also going through a kind of social reform. We were talking about the women education, the child remarriage, and child marriage, and so many other challenges which our society was facing apart from the colonial rule basically. And he was one of the social reformers who have actually contributed towards the awakening of India as a identity, national identity, and which contributed towards India's freedom struggle later on. So I'll not take much time. I know this evening is planned with some of the cultural evenings this evening, particularly music. We all know that Tagore Gurudev ji was so much into music also. As we all know, Rabindra Sangeet, the music known with his own name basically. So that said, I'll not stand between you and the music this evening. So I look forward to enjoy that this evening, rest of the evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I think we can now proceed with the cultural part of our evening. So I'll let our guests now run the events.
Very good evening to one and all here. We extend our sincere gratitude to all the respected officials present here and providing us with this wonderful platform to celebrate the 163rd birth anniversary of Rabindra Tagore. For us, we call him as Robi Thakur, right? Tagore's another name is Thakur. We also refer to him as Gurudev, Kobi Guru, Vishwaguru, right? So it holds a very special meaning and very special place in our hearts. I wanted to give some few memories how we celebrated back at home versus here, right? So back at home, if I recollect, waking up early in the morning, right? In every household, we used to hear his music. We used to perform in various institutions, in schools, in colleges, in local communities. It's kind of like a festival, like a celebration all across Kolkata. Tagore's literally was known across the world, across India, and some of his great writings are portrayed in two of his famous books, and they are presented here for you to glimpse through if you want, Gitobitan and Shancharitam. I think these two are very core to all Bengalis here, and we learned all the poems, all the songs, all the literary works through his writings from here. So, how we are celebrating here in the US, we are committed, as Shumanta and Devashishda said, that we are nurturing a vibrant Bengali and NVBA community here in the US, where we annually celebrate not only Tagore, but also pay our tribute to another great poet of our nation was Nazrul Islam. Right? So we celebrate both the poets together in NVBA community. So we do ensure that whatever we learned back at home in India, we transmit that to our next generation and we learn from our culture. Without further delay, I would now like to call upon Paul Upadhyay on the stage because he will be telling you some of the snippets of Tagore, how he traveled in America and his experience and impact that he left behind.
Thank you, Sadrupa. Good evening, everyone. It's It's a delightful evening to be here on your invite. We're really thankful to you. And we extend, on behalf of NVBA, extend the same invite to you on June 22nd. So far, our speakers have already talked about the cultural side, the writing side, the poetry side of Tagore. But I'm here today to talk about a totally different side of him, his side as a traveler, as a philosopher and a speaker, particularly his trips to the United States. You'll be surprised to know that long before we had jet planes, Tagore made trips to 34 countries, including Iraq and Iran, and made 5 trips to the United States, 5 states. So when we complain about the long flight from Doha, being 16 hours, I think we should think twice that what did Tagore do in his days. Right? So till 1912, when he was 51 years old, he never thought about coming to America. It was 1906 when his son Rabindra, he said, "Daddy, I want to study agriculture." So that was immediately after 1905, the Bengal partition, where he took an active part in the freedom movement. So he said, in good conscience, I cannot send you to UK. We just fought against them. So then Ratindranath influenced him that then you can probably go to USA. So Ratindranath ended up in 1906 in University of Illinois, Urbana, for a degree in agriculture. So that was the first thoughts in Tagore's mind about America, sending his son here. But the introduction to America happened when he was 12 years old, to the biography of Benjamin Franklin. He and his dad together, they read the biography. He didn't enjoy it very much because it was more business-like, but that's a different story. So here comes 1912, and Tagore had no plans of coming here. He came to UK with his son, and he was having health issues. And at that time, his son said, "Daddy, Midwest is a great homeopathic treatment at this time. I think you should go get yourself checked out in the United States. You don't have to speak to anybody, and you just go stay in Urbana, and nobody's going to bother you." So they traveled, and the family traveled to University of Illinois in Urbana, and they started enjoying the bucolic environment and the weather, and Devashish and others mentioned, he really didn't care much about the big cities. So he landed in New York, in the New York port. And as usual, even today, immigration officials gave him a real hard time. So he hated it. He also hated the skyscrapers. He said, "Take me to some place that I can breathe better." So then he went to Urbana. And he really wanted to have a quiet time, but his son spoke to a reporter in the Chicago Tribune saying, "Hey, my dad was already famous in England because of his friendship with Ezra Pound, one of the poets. He's here for some time, he's recuperating from an illness." And so one thing led to another, and then he was introduced to 2 Harriets, Harriet Monroe and Harriet Moody, who were the famous poets at the time. One was a poet, editor of the magazine called Poetry. Another one was a widow of one of the famous poets, and she was very wealthy. And she had all the connections. So she said, "I'm not going to let this opportunity go. I'm going to take you to Harvard." So then they traveled again back to Boston and introduced to the Harvard circuit. And that's where he started gaining his fame. And this was before 1913. He had not won the Nobel Prize until that time. So that was his first trip. And then after that, he came 4 more times. So immediately after 1213, he came in 1915 and 16. At that time, World War I had already started. There was no direct way to come to the United States through Europe. So he went to Japan and then arrived in the United States to the West Coast. So 1916 trip was okay, not much remarkable, because it was 16, 17, except for one incident that happened. Believe it or not, there was an attempt on his life in San Francisco by some militant Indians. The plot did not go through, but that was one of the incidents that happened in 1916, 17. After that, he came back again in 1919, 1920. At that time, he came really to do some fundraising for Shantiniketan. So the Shantiniketan as a school, boys' school, had already started, but raising major funds to fund that place. And he became busy in the lecture circuit, but it was really hard work. He hated fundraising. He said, "I'm not getting any leads anywhere, and I hate this. I love to write. This is not my thing. Take me out of here." Also in 1916, 17 trip happened. Sorry, next time he came, it was in 1929. That would be the penultimate trip before he came in 1930. In 1929, he came in an invitation to Canada. And from Canada, when he arrived in Canada, again, Harvard and other schools, Yale, they sent him an invite to come speak to them again. So he crossed over the border, but he lost his passport. Then he had to deal with the visa officers again, and he absolutely hated it because they gave him a hard time and they told him, do you know what the penalties for overstaying? He really felt insulted by the whole thing, and he just wanted to go. 1924 was when the United States passed an immigration law banning Asians from immigrating. So he could sense that he was not welcome there. He immediately made arrangements and took a ship back to India. And the final trip happened in 1930. By that time, his name had spread all over the world. And he actually first stopped in Moscow. He came through USSR. He had some good things to say about them. He also had some bad things to say about them. For whatever reason, that actually triggered good interest in the United States. And he got a hero's welcome in his final trip in New York. In New York City, they rolled out the red carpet for him. So he had full house in Carnegie Hall, in Ritz-Carlton, packed houses, standing in the only audience. And in 1930, they also came to Washington, D.C., right here, to the White House, and met with President Hoover. So that was a celebrity trip where he was really treated like the celebrity he was. In the same stage, he had Helen Keller sharing stage with him, and he met Einstein again. He met him in Europe before, but they also met in New York City. And the New York Times at that time posted an article saying, "The mystic meets the mathematician in Manhattan," if you like alliteration. So what did all these trips do for him? He wanted to, as you mentioned, that he was all about peace, he was all about internationalism, he was all about cooperation, and he didn't like American participation in the wars. In the First World War, he didn't, but in the Second World War, he thought that America could actually change the world by putting its weight in the right place. So that's what he did. But what he thought, the best thing that he took out of America, is his friendships. Just like he had a solid friendship in South America with Victor Campo from Argentina, he built a lifelong friendship with Harriet Moody in the United States, and he wrote letters to her on the last day of his life. So he had mixed feelings towards America. Americans had mixed feelings towards him. When he came to the US for the first time, he said America is like an unripe fruit, still acid to taste. But at the end, he concluded that America is the hope for the world. With that, I end here.
Good evening, all the esteemed members of the Indian Embassy and our friends. I am honored to be a part of this wonderful evening. Let's give a hand to all the community leaders for their impressive speeches.